outstanding Italian, seafood, traditional fare. Smilie's Restaurant, a tradition in Harahan at 5725 Jefferson Highway is where sportsNOLAtv originates from this evening. We're sure happy to be here, and we're happy to have you with us. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv, welcome to another edition of our fine show with fine people such as you partaking each and every week. And of course, we'll talk about the Saints and the Hornets and college baseball and prep sports galore, Monster Jam, you name it. And oh, by the way, we'll touch on auto racing as well. That's right, auto racing. And we'll do so with our outstanding panel of guests, including our regulars, Brian Allee-Walsh of sportsNOLA.com. Brian, good evening.
Dr. Trahan, always a pleasure, my friend. The countdown begins to the Great American Race, 6 days from the Daytona 500. I can't wait.
I didn't think you could. We'll get into that a little bit later. Torrance Small, wide receiver par excellence for the New Orleans Saints and throughout the NFL for many years, is with us as always. And Torrance, good evening.
Glad to be back. Dr. Ken, I don't know what the doctor for, but I hear him say it all the time. So, Dr. Ken, hey, glad to be here. Hey, went to the wrestling last night. Feed me more. Didn't know what it mean until I went to wrestling. Great show last night. Great show.
I'm so glad you had a chance to. I mean, listen, we could go on for an entire segment. Sounds like you got a lot to say about it. And a guy we're going to hear from quite a bit, and we're sure happy to have him here, of course, played for the New Orleans Saints in the mid-90s for 3 seasons from 1994 through 1996 before going on to Arizona to play for the Cardinals. And, of course, he's in our community and has stayed here pretty much on the North Shore. It's great to have J.J McClesky with us. J.J., good evening, and great to have you with us. And I know you're having fun training some young men, aren't you?
Well, first of all, I don't know if the doctor is as well, but I'm going to say Dr. Trahan, the doctor is in. Definitely having a ball in my wheelhouse, training kids at Me Sports, opened up a place a year ago, having a blast training the kids. They're working hard, and we're just having fun right now.
Well, I know you are. And knowing your story, they can learn a lot from you. I think one of the messages you probably convey is don't let anybody tell you you cannot accomplish something, right?
100% correct. And that's one of the reasons why it's called mental edge sports, ME sports, because most of it is mentally. You know, you have to be tough. You have to understand that you're going to have adversity sometimes, and you just got to play through it. And again, I'm having a ball.
And we'll have a ball when we continue in just a moment as we get into JJ's favorite topic, the New Orleans Saints, as we continue with sportsNOLAtv from Smilie's in Harahan on Jefferson Highway on sportsNOLAtv. With all due respect to Malcolm Jenkins, you hope you can do better with that 15th overall pick this time around. Let's see if the Saints, in fact, can accomplish that. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv from Smilie's Restaurant on Jefferson Highway in Harahan. Brian, that's one thing before we get into the Saints coaching news is that the Saints have had great success in the mid to late rounds, but they've stumbled to some degree in the early rounds during this regime, especially in the first round.
And, we bring up the point of Malcolm Jenkins. I mean, I'd say the jury is still out, perhaps, on Malcolm Jenkins, and even though we're 3 years into his tenure right now. So, yeah, and you know what? Every draft book that I'm seeing, everybody's having these guys pick a D lineman at 15, and which let's hope that they do, and let's hope they pick correctly, because it's important.
Yeah, I'd say the jury's still out. I would say, I'd go a step further than that, Torrance. I'd say he hasn't justified that 14th overall selection to this point in his career.
No, he hasn't. At this moment, I remember one time looking at Malcolm Jenkins, I thought this guy would be a great player for the Saints. I thought he was going to make plays. I thought a guy that was able to play dual position, a safety as well as a cornerback, I thought he'll be able to be special for us. But in the end, he's not the playmaker that I thought he was, and it's still out on him right now.
JJ, you know something about this. Bottom line is this. There's an old saying about being a jack of all trades and a master of nothing. Maybe that applies here a little bit. You're not a great cornerback. You're not a great safety. You're not a good cornerback. You're not a good safety. What are you?
I'm going to have to agree with Torrance. His first year, I thought he had a lot of upside. I'm thinking that maybe he might need to spend more time in the offseason. I'm not seeing that burst. I think he's a very heady player. I think he's smart. I think he's intelligent. I think he's a a would-be tackler, but I think there's something missing with the burst, the speed, and maybe if he get with somebody and do some work in the offseason, he may be able to, come on.
Anybody
we'll see.
we know?
Anybody would know. He can work with J.J., right.
Yes.
Well, the Saints, of course, Sean Payton is back in the fold, and he's, by the way, really happy. I had a chance to visit with him last week for a couple of hours, and he's a happy guy right now and is renewed. I think he's had his batteries recharged, and he's going full speed ahead with remaking his team, including his coaching staff. And, of course, the most significant hire was Rob Ryan as his defensive coordinator. And, Brian, we take a look at the bio on Rob Ryan. Listen, this guy is fully qualified, a defense coordinator at 3 different stops in the NFL. Of course, worked at New England when they had great success, so that was a tremendous background. We know about his twin brother, who's a head coach in the league. We know about his dad, who's coached in the league. So there's no question that he's very well prepared, and there's no question he knows the 3-4 very well.
Yeah, I wrote for our website, sportsNOLA.com. Kenny tried to compare Cam Cameron's hire up at LSU and Rex Ryan's hire with the Saints. I'm going to have to be convinced that this is a good hire. I agree totally with you. The resume is there. He hasn't done it. Anywhere he's been in the NFL as a DC, as a defensive coordinator, he hasn't done it yet. He hadn't actually coached on a winning program in the NFL yet. Now, I think he's walking into a good situation in New Orleans. And I'll tell you what, this is a perfect situation for Sean Payton. I think he would love to switch to a 3-4, hire Rex Ryan, and show that the Cowboys missed out on a really good defensive coordinator. But I'm going to have to see it to believe it.
Devil's advocate, Torrance. In Oakland, they were horrible. Not his fault. They had 5 wins was the most they had in 4 years. Cleveland, like an expansion franchise for 2 years. Dallas was the one stop he was in where they had some players, DeMarcus Ware most notably. Listen, statistics don't mean everything. It's all about players. You can't possibly have great stats as a defense coordinator if you don't have really good players.
And Spagnuolo found that out.
Right, he didn't suddenly become a bad coach, right?
Exactly. Yeah. He wasn't a bad coach, but you need some talent around. If we don't get the players in, if we don't get those linebackers that can rush off the end and bring defensive tackle that can put some pressure up the middle, he's going to have problems. I know he likes to do a lot of exotic things. Not only he's going to have to bring in some young talent, but he's going to need some veterans in there because the things that he like to do, he's going to need a quarterback in that backfield to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do.
JJ, I sense that you're probably kind of in the middle about the hire too, but the one thing I would ask you is this, based on Sean Payton's track record and his record of success, in golf terminology, he's probably earned a mulligan or two, so we ought to give him the benefit of the doubt here, right?
I definitely have to agree with you. First of all, you can't go against Sean Payton or Mickey Loomis on any of their hire. One thing I like about this guy from a schematic standpoint, he definitely knows what he's doing. He has the pedigree, his father, his brother, and just been in the NFL as long as this guy's been there. At the end of the day, if you don't have talent, you can't make plays. But getting them lined up right, I think they had a problem last year. I just don't think it was a good fit from their defensive coordinator. And again, you have to look at how they're fitting in. Greg Williams, Ryan, they're very similar as far as their swag, their attitudes, and maybe that's what Sean Payton's looking for. One good thing about it is he had a whole year to assess his team. Mm-hmm. This guy knows where his team need to come from.
And he had similar success with a similar personality with Greg Williams, so he's gone back in that direction this time around. Dan Ruchar, the new running backs coach, and Brett Engels moves to offensive line as they continue to retool the staff. One more hire to make. The calendar. Let's take a look at the NFL calendar because franchise tag window getting underway. Scouting combine, of course, coming up here in just a few days. Teams can negotiate with their own unrestricted free agents starting on March the 9th. And then, of course, the 2013 league year begins with free agency on March the 12th and then the NFL draft the 23rd to the 27th. What's most significant there, Brian, from your perspective?
Well, I don't think they're going to be able to use a franchise tag in anybody, so we can put that out the window. Although I did see an interesting theory today about possibility of maybe a Cedric Ellis or one player like that, and I don't buy that. I think that's the one thing. The 3 days before the league calendar year opens, it'll be interesting to see that the moves that they can make, because they still have to get under this salary cap of $121 million. We saw what they did with Curtis Lofton, redo his contract. They're going to have to do a little bit more of that.
Still about $13 million over, though, Torrance, and they're talking about restructuring Vilma and Smith.
Restructuring, it might can help, but I like to get some new guys in here, somebody that fit into that defense that we're looking to have.
Yeah, and probably no more Devery Henderson, I would imagine, moving forward at this point, JJ.
I think Devery's career is probably over with the Saints, but I would say this. Pass rusher, whatever the salary cap is, you have to get a bona fide pass rusher.
I think a pass rusher, unquestionably. I still think the most important position is a shutdown cornerback. There's nothing like that. It allows you to do everything you want to do with your defense. If you have that one guy, they don't. Jabari Greer's a good player, but not that kind of player. If you could possibly find a guy of that magnitude, then that's the only way I'd usurp a defensive lineman with that first overall pick. Stay tuned. Those guys are hard to find. We'll take a time out here. When we return, the New Orleans Hornets at the All-Star break, where they stand and where they're going when we continue with Sports NOLA TV from Smiley's on Jefferson Highway. Smiley's at 5725 Jefferson Highway is where we're at in Harahan, and that Hornets performance was splendid defensively. Now, in interest of full disclosure, the Blazers were playing the second of back-to-back and had played a tough game at Miami the previous night in which they kind of sold out in terms of their effort, and they didn't have much juice left in the tank, but the Hornets played very well. And it should be noted that the Hornets won that game, their biggest margin of victory of the year, without one Eric Gordon in the lineup, who was a mysterious late scratch with a sprained hand about 40 to 45 minutes before game time, and then was nowhere to be found in the arena, was not on the bench, not in the locker room before or after, which of course fueled more speculation about who he is, what he wants, where he wants to be, and his future with the franchise. Brian, we've been down this road before. The trade deadline is this Thursday. I don't think anything's going to happen. Monty Williams has pretty much cast his lot with Eric Gordon, and at the same time, if somebody came forward with a marvelous offer, Monty Williams aside, the Hornets would have to listen and listen very hard.
Yeah, you know, we've discussed this very topic on the show numerous occasions, and really, you know, you want this kid to become mature, essentially. He still doesn't understand what it takes to play, be a professional, and I think that's a key word here, is that he doesn't know what it takes to be a professional, and that's playing night in, night out when it is necessary, hurt. There's a difference between being hurt and injured, and I don't know if he gets it yet, Kenny. So we'll see what happens. You know, they have invested a lot in him, and you hope it pans out. But boy, I tell you what, the jury is way out on this kid.
Well, he's good off the bounce, as we can see, Torrance. He can shoot the basketball, but he's not a max player. He'd be at that next level. He's a good to very good player, not a great player.
He's a good player, and he helps the team out. He makes us better when he's playing. But I'm with Brian on this. Not often I'm with this guy, but I'm with this guy right now. I think he has to be a professional. In spite of what's going on, your dislikes with the team or whatnot, you have an obligation to go out there and perform at a high level for this team until we trade you or to whatever demands he's asking or to whatever the team decide to do with him.
JJ, you played at the highest level in the NFL. As a teammate, when you were hurt, most of the time, if not all the time, you were there on the sideline with your teammates. It's fellowship, it's support. This guy was an absentee last year when he was out. He's an absentee again this year when he's not playing. Does that really grate on teammates in your mind?
When you're the best player on the team, you have to be the best player on the team, bottom line. This team is young, they need leadership, and that's Eric Gordon's role. You're the highest paid player on the team. Be a leader, be accountable, hold your teammates accountable, and that's the problem they're having right now.
Well, the All-Star Game experience in Houston this past week did encompass a few Hornets participants in the various activities, including Anthony Davis in the rookie game and Ryan Anderson in the three-point shooting contest. Brian, he's been a godsend. He's just been consistent all year. Terrific shooter, but he's a good rebounder, and he's developed a low post game as well. And this guy's been their most consistent player all season long.
Yeah, and you know what? He epitomizes to me what a professional is. And he's shown it around the league. And it's a shame that you know, when you look at the rest of the Hornets roster, the Pelicans to be roster, you see a lot of potential. You see some good veteran leadership. And what's missing is an Eric Gordon to step up and fulfill his obligation and his contract. And they either needed to get it from him or somebody else for this team to gel, Kenny.
In the case of Anderson, again, just a really good pickup, good player, Torrance, and of course Anthony Davis has played well, and he's only going to get better, and he was in the rookie game too.
Yeah, the young guy's playing great. He's going to be great for us. Anderson is playing great. Ultimate professional. We have an ultimate professional right here with us right now, and J.J McClesky. You're talking about a guy that went out and played the game like it's supposed to be played. Ultimate professional. Didn't worry about where he played, when he played, or how he played. He played the game, and he played it hard. He played it fast.
If you want to win in the NBA, JJ, you got to have at least 2 building blocks. You know you've got one in Anthony Davis. That's clear. Eric Gordon should be that other. And then you have that rich man's next level guy as your third player, like an Anderson. So ideally, if you could get these guys to play together and secure Anderson on a long-term basis and believe he's going to be here, you'd be fine, but that's a big question.
Well, like you said earlier, he's been the most consistent player. He's playing great. He's shooting the ball well. He helps spread the court out, and that's key in the NBA. If you can keep the court spread out, at the end of the day, it's going to come back to Gordon. Is Gordon going to be the leader? Is he going to be accountable? Is he going to do the things that guarantee the contract that he has?
I hear you. They go into the break, Brian, having won 4 out of 5 games, so they're playing good basketball overall. And let's take a look at the upcoming schedule for the Hornets. It's a busy week. The Bulls are in town on Tuesday night, and of course, they're a good team even without Derrick Rose. Cleveland Cavaliers have Kyrie Irving. He's special. That's a real game. It's a television game nationally, so a chance for the Hornets to get some exposure. And then the Mavericks and Dirk Nowitzki in town Friday, and the Sacramento Kings in town on Sunday. Marcus Thornton returns to New Orleans. Bottom line is that they can compete against this schedule. They can compete the rest of the way and be a 500 type of team, in my opinion, with what they got, but so much hinges on Gordon. That said, it's a busy week.
Yeah, you know, Kyrie Irving, he's younger than Eric Gordon, and here's a kid that has already become a leader up in Cleveland. You saw him at the NBA All-Star game. This kid can play, and it looks like he's got his head screwed on right. That's important, and just you hope that Eric Gordon can find it someday.
Got to be in the right situation. Marcus Thornton goes to Sacramento. He thrives for a year and a half. They change coaches, kind of falls out of favor, not playing as much now. Sometimes you just need to be in the right situation, don't you?
Timing and opportunity plays a lot. You know, I got my play because of time and opportunity. A player went down, I stepped up, and it happens like that in the league. But with Eric Gordon, right now, I thought we could work this out. I thought he had got past his hump. Unfortunately, he hasn't. I think we need to do away with him, get rid of him, and to try to bring somebody else that want to be here and that's going to help this team.
Bulls in town, JJ. The Mavericks in town, who won a championship pretty recently. Kings are in town. So no other competition per se for the entertainment dollar. And the Hornets finally get packed buildings, get a lot of people in that building, hopefully.
I tell you one thing, this is a winnable schedule, these next 4 games. Again, it's going to come down to them playing hard, executing, playing defense, building a little bit off of what they did before the All-Star game. But at the end of the day, like Torrance said, like Brian said, it comes down to Eric Gordon. It comes down to, is he going to be the special player that he is? When he played with the Clippers, he was a special player. When he had time with the Olympic team, he was a special player. He has to be that special player, and he has the ability. He has a skill set. Now does he want to be a professional? And it comes down to his want.
Ultimately, I think it equates this way. Sometimes you marry somebody, you think you can change them. Chances are you're not going to change them. They are who they are. And I think that's kind of what we're looking at here to a degree with Gordon. When we return in just a moment, we'll turn our attention to college baseball. The season underway as sportsNOLA TV continues from Smilie's in Harahan. Our sportsNOLA trivia question of the evening. In the 46-year history of the franchise, on what position have the Saints used the most draft picks? Is it running back, wide receiver, linebacker, or cornerback? Now, that's a good question. That requires a lot of thought. And I don't know the answer, but I'm going to think about it, and I'm going to make sure I figure this out before we get to the answer. Good one, Lenny. sportsNOLA TV Smiley's continues in Harahan, and Tulane spring football got the jump on everyone. They got underway, much to the chagrin of guys like us. We don't get a chance to see it because it's closed to the media. And one of the primary reasons for that is they can't hold practices on campus while they start the construction of the football stadium. So they've been at the Saints facility. They'll be outdoors elsewhere as well, but media not there. And Brian, I understand that because they're not on campus, can't control it. And at the same time, you'd like to see what kind of progress has been made another year down the road for Curtis Johnson and his staff. And obviously the big storyline certainly has to surround the quarterback position, as we saw. Nick Montana is clearly going to be their starting quarterback as he transfers in and has previous Division I experience.
We all know CJ, and we know how interested he is with public relations. It's important, I think, for the community to see this young team. And you know what, this would be a good opportunity, but understandable that they've got to keep these things closed. It sounds like it's Montana or bust, Kenny.
Sure. Well,
right?
no, he's going to be the starting quarterback. There's no question. Barring any injuries, he's the guy.
Yeah.
They've got young guys. Otherwise, you saw Devin Powell as a consideration, but they recruited 2 kids as well that they're very high on, in particular Tanner Lee from Jesuit. So as you look at this program a year down the road, Torrance, clearly needing improvement across the board to be competitive, but you're seeing pretty good recruiting classes being put together by Curtis.
I think it's a great start by Curtis right now with his recruiting that he's doing. Like Brian, I agree with you. I think this should be. I know. I don't know what's happening. Do I have a fever? Too many concussions. You know what is it? But I do think he's off to a great start with recruiting. I think they recruited a lot of kids that were local, which I think is going to bring crowds out. Not only that, the new stadium is coming up, and I think that's going to be great for him.
J.J. 17, I believe, from Louisiana, 15 from the New Orleans area. And to get people to their product, to get them to see them play, and you have a son that plays at St. Paul's as an example, it requires recruiting local kids to get people in the community interested.
I agree with you, but one good thing that Coach Johnson has done, his coaching staff. When you got guys that can teach and can coach, and then they can talk to the kids and understand the kids to today's age, it helps them out. And I think that's what Coach Johnson did a great job. His coaching staff is very knowledgeable.
College baseball, boy, it rolls off the tongue sweetly because I enjoy it thoroughly, is underway. LSU and Tulane both getting off to good starts this past week. And the Tigers, first and foremost, went through Maryland, sweeping them with outstanding pitching throughout. The Tigers are ranked very highly, number 3 in the nation in 2 polls, number 10 in the other. And of course, they've got some key returning players, Rhymes, Katz, Eads, Noah. You can throw in Jacoby Jones, among others, to that mix. Brian, the expectations are always high. They came up a game short of Omaha last year. Anything less than that, I think, would be considered a disappointment.
Listen, I agree. I followed closely their weekend series against Maryland, and they've got it all. They've got the Friday through Sunday starters. They've got a decent bullpen. They picked up the Bregman, the kid at shortstop, a nice young freshman. I know Paul Maneri is thinking College World Series, but he's also thinking national championship.
Well, they played really good defense this past week, and I watched and paid one game and paid attention to them closely, listened and everything else, and even had my daughter there scouting, okay? But Laird in right field had a really good weekend. He's good defensively. You mentioned Bregman. He's a very good pickup. Pitching front line is top-notch. Ross back behind the plate hit a big home run, and he's very good defensively. And Torrance, again, when you have the facilities, you have the budgetary commitment, you have the legacy, again, the expectations are very high, and they should be, and I think Paul Maneri understands that and embraces it.
Oh, yeah. Like Kobe Bryant said, LA and the Celtics expect to be in the championships. LSU expect to be in Omaha. They expect to be there. And when you have those expectations, it just raises the level of everybody playing. And I expect them to be there this year as well.
They haven't been there since 2009, that being Omaha when they won the College World Series. But, JJ, winning begets winning. When you walk into a situation where all they've done is won previously, you get indoctrinated into that culture very quickly and figure it out, don't you?
Definitely so. One thing that you do when you're in that situation, you gotta breathe in. You gotta buy into the situation. And I think this year with their pitching staff and it's a real strong pitching staff, I think it really helped them get to Omaha. I think it's either Omaha or a bust this year.
Tulane had a good weekend. They opened up winning 2 out of 3 in a tournament in Texas, and the Green Wave have a frontline pitcher who pitched a gem on Friday night. That's going to really help them. As they won the tournament, they were declared the winners, going 2-1. Garrett Canizero, Brandon Boudreaux, and of course Middleton and Bayo back as well. Rosati pitched a great game. They have the makings of being a better team, Brian, than they've been over the last couple of years.
Yeah, Rick needs to get that team back into the postseason. You know, that's the bottom line here. And Rosati, I believe that's pronounced right. You know, he showed, the guy's got 2 knees that have been operated on, and all he does is go out and throw the gem, as you mentioned the night before.
Well, you got to have that Friday night guy that can stone people, Torrance. If you have that number 1 guy and go out and give you 7 innings and win 70, 80% of the time, you've got a chance to be a championship team.
Yeah, you have to have a good bullpen. You have to have a good front man to pitch. You have to have a good group of guys in order to win in baseball. That is, you have to it takes a group of guys. Unlike football, you just have that quarterback that can get it done. You need a group of pitchers.
Run production really down in college baseball, JJ, largely because of these bats that have been toned down so significantly.
I tell you one thing, it's made a big difference, and you see it with the numbers. But one thing about it, and I'll go to this, you have to train in the off season. When you take away the bats and the different things, you have to train. You know.
And this man he'll train you for baseball too. Yeah. I promise you, he can take care of that as well. Let's take a look at some key games that are upcoming in college baseball. And Notre Dame, that's always a big name, coming to town to play Tulane at Turchin Stadium. By the way, the patriarch, Mr. Turchin, passing away, and Godspeed to his family, and our prayers are with him. LSU Tulane, March 26th. LSU Southern Miss, of course, the Wally Pontiff Jr. Classic at Zephyr Field. LSU Arkansas. Arkansas is big time. That's a huge series. Tulane at LSU on April 24th. South Carolina at LSU. South Carolina, of course, in the College World Series the last 3 years, winning 2 of the 3 now, almost winning it again last year. So those are some big series, and if you want to get there, you've got to win those midweek games and then win those weekend series 2 out of 3. That's the formula for getting to Omaha, and I think LSU certainly has a great chance. Tulane, they're just concerned about getting back to the NCAA tournament. I think they have a great chance to do so this year, having a Friday night pitcher that can get it done, and I think that's so significant. We love college baseball. We'll be covering it and looking forward to it. Go to sportsNOLA.com to check it out. Is it hype or is it real? Danica Patrick getting a ton of attention on our Hot Seat segment when we return on Sports NOLA TV. Been waiting on this one, our Sports NOLA trivia question of the evening. Usually I get these right about 100% of the time. Tonight could be different. 46 years of the Saints franchise. What position had the Saints used the most picks on? Running back, wide receiver, linebacker, cornerback? We're guessing running back with linebacker number 2. The correct answer is, oh my, it is right, running backs. So there you go, Brian. I guess we keep our record intact. We nailed another one. Not a bad get, right? So we've done all right. We're not so dumb after all. Every dog has his day, right? Come up with an axiom and apply it here. Speaking of axioms, our Hot Seat segment applies to, of all sports, auto racing. That's right, auto racing, because there is an enormous amount of attention being paid to the sport, in particular NASCAR right now, as a result of Danica Patrick winning the pole for the most prestigious race in NASCAR, one of the most prestigious races in the world, and that is, of course, the Great American Race, the Daytona 500, next Sunday. And she won the pole, exceeded 196 miles an hour average speed to do so, edging out Jeff Gordon, who, by the way, gave her a hug afterwards. I'm just saying, would he have hugged Jimmy Johnson, his teammate, if he won the pole? I don't know about that. On the other hand, if Ricky Stenhouse gets a chance to congratulate her with a win, it could be more than a hug. Our question today and our Hot Seat topic surrounds Danica Patrick and whether or not she's all about hype or if the media blitz that she receives on a regular basis is justified. It's a real hot topic because I think there are really 2 sides to the story. Brian Allee-Walsh, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan. Kenny and I had discussed before that we went on the air about potential hot seat topic items, and we both were in agreement. Danica Patrick, she has taken the sports world by storm with her winning the pole at the Sprint Cup Series for the Great American Race, the Daytona 500. First time ever the woman, a female driver, has assumed the pole position, the pole cat, if you will. I'm all for this. I think it's great. She's going to attract people that normally wouldn't be following this race or even this sport. They're going to be jumping in and watching this race on Sunday and paying attention to how she does particularly. She is a proven driver, both I'm probably stepping out of both in the open pit and the closed pit driving area of this sport, and she's proven it both sides. So, you know what? I wish her all the best. I know she's competing in a good old boys sport here, and there's some people that have not accepted her readily. Others have. I know Richard Petty thinks that her winning the pole is good for the sport because it does open up the avenue for other people that want to pay attention to this sport. So one, I hope she does well, and I hope it stops at this and is strictly racing. So good luck, Danica. We're all pulling for you.
Too much attention or not enough
Yes,
attention, Brian? What do you think?
Well, you know what? See, I coach girls volleyball, so I'm all for the women to do it. So I don't think it's too much attention. I think it's just enough.
Okay.
No, I don't think it's enough. I think she needs more. And then we'll appreciate if you get to the answer first and then rabble on. You know, you rabble, man. You rabble, and we're trying to get to the point here. No, she needs more attention. That's what she needs. She needs more attention. Hey, if you want more people to watch and tune in, ex-PGA about Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods came on, more people start watching. She's going to bring more people. I don't watch much of racing, but I'm gonna watch this I'm gonna watch this one, the Daytona 500. I guarantee you that, just because of Danica and not because of GoDaddy. Although GoDaddy is nice, but I will be watching because she took the first poll.
JJ.
I'm gonna have to agree with Torrance. It's good for the sport of NASCAR. I would have been watching the Indianapolis 500, but I'm gonna have to tune in now. So again, it is good for the sport. Financially, it's good that people are gonna be able to tune in and GoDaddy.
Please don't GoDaddy.
But that's what she said. She said she's happy for her sponsors now. And back to that, when Jeff Gordon gave her a hug, he gave her the man. He put his hand out and wrapped her like that. It was a good old man.
The only thing I'll say is that I don't like about it, and this is being the male part of me, is I don't like all of the Entertainment Tonight stuff where she's a 30-year-old woman and she's now dating a 25-year-old driver. I don't want all that. I don't need all that. I just want her to go and race against the good old boys and beat them. That's what I want. So yeah, I thought I've said that this was good for racing.
Yeah, but you don't have to watch that stuff. They don't talk about that stuff on NASCAR. They don't talk about that on NASCAR. Okay? You watch NASCAR. You watch your race. If that's what you want to listen to, the other stuff is good for the sport. I'm going to watch it. Like I said, I normally don't watch. I'm going to watch because of her.
Okay, I think maybe it's time that I can render a judgment on this particular topic because I have some definite thoughts on it. First of all, I was tired of seeing Danica Patrick. She got an enormous amount of coverage and attention for doing nothing for an extended period of time. In 2008, she won an Indy-style race in Japan. In 2009, she finished third in the Indianapolis 500, a tremendous feat after she had finished fourth in the Indy 500 and led a lap in 2005. Those things are great. But since then, what? She finished 28th overall, average finishing 28th overall last year on the second circuit, not the first circuit. She is not someone that has distinguished herself at all in the closed car, closed pit racing, as Brian referred to earlier. And yet she continued to get enormous coverage for all of the other reasons, for the advertisements that came along. GoDaddy's been mentioned. Please, enough of GoDaddy. I completely disagree. I've seen enough. Some of the most tasteless, disgusting commercials I've ever seen. Totally ridiculous. On the other hand, she is good for the sport. And she deserves the coverage and deserves the plaudits and deserves the recognition of Media Blitz now because she won the pole for the most significant NASCAR race in the world, the Daytona 500. And that is the story. I don't think she'll win the race, but it's a tremendous story going in. And there's no doubt that the ratings are going to shoot through the roof as a result of what she has accomplished. And what she accomplishes from here on out will clearly distinguish whether or not it was overhyped and too much attention or whether it wasn't, because there are so many levels here. Who's got the broadcast rights? I don't know. You might want to look that up because it certainly equates to what kind of attention she's getting. When she gets more minutes in the NBA All-Star game on a national sportscast on a particular network, you can figure out which one. You might understand why that is the case. I'm all for it. I have no problem. I got tired of watching and seeing, never quite got the hype or all the commercials, frankly, based upon the level of success or lack thereof. At the same time, she's done significant things in the sport as a female. Godspeed, you go girl, just no more GoDaddy. When we return in just a moment, we'll take a look at high school sports extensively across the state as Sports NOLA TV continues from Smilie's on Jefferson Highway in Harahan. Trending at sportsNOLA.com. Read about the Saints' hires of coaches and their signings as well. LSU naming Cam Cameron as their offensive coordinator. Prep coverage galore, which we'll get into in just a moment. And our first NBC video updates and a whole bunch of those too. All of that and much, much more. Anything you could possibly want at sportsNOLA.com. Ken Trahan, SportsNOLA TV from Smilie's on Jefferson Highway in Harahan. It's a big time in prep sports as sports are crisscrossing each other, and we can start with 1, 2, 3, but we'll start with what happened this past weekend at the State Wrestling Championships at the Pontchartrain Center in Kenner. Record attendance, over 14,000 as sport continues to grow. Most number of schools competing in the all-time history of this tournament. And we had a repeat champion in Division I. The Brother Martin Crusaders repeated their 14th overall state championship in the sport. Jesuit was second, Catholic and Baton Rouge third, St. Paul's and Rummel right behind them. And then in Division II, Holy Cross, the winner, 27th overall, most in Louisiana history. Turley's Catholic, defending state champs, for second. Live Oak, a coming program, third. And in Division III, Bruley wins again, their 12th overall. They dominate that division. North Vermilion second. Good showing by John Curtis Christian. They finished third in the State Wrestling Championships. Great sport continues to grow. Brian, it's good for the kids, keeps them in tremendous shape. That's good news. Bad news, the IOC considering dropping wrestling, which is an absolute travesty and stupid. They'll keep badminton and ping pong, but no wrestling, really?
Yeah, I know. Congratulations to all those local schools. They continue, as you said, continue to dominate that sport. It just makes me think of what's happening in football, because you get some schools that are dominating that sport, but they want to break it up. But it's okay, So.
Well, wrestling is a great sport.
Yep.
Thoroughly enjoyed it this past weekend. I've had the opportunity to do the announcing for it. We blogged everything live at sportsNOLA.com. We broke the website at one point. We had so many people online following what we were doing, so that tells you about the interest. And there will be great interest in the state soccer championships this coming weekend as we turn our attention to Tad Gormley Stadium and the girls, 3 classifications. And it's going to be SSA, St. Scholastica, a perennial power against Lafayette, the 1-2 seeds in Division I. In Division II, Vanderbilt Catholic and the Ben Franklin Falcons to do battle. And then Sacred Heart, 3-time defending state champion, against Loyola Prep in Division III. And the boys' championship, St. Paul's and Jesuit playing against Sam. 3rd straight year for the state championship. In Division II, Bo Shen and St. Louis Catholic, the powerhouse school. And in Division III, Newman's had a phenomenal year, and they get the number 2 seed, the Episcopal Knights. Okay, Brian, you know a little bit about Ben Franklin. Boys narrowly missed, girls got in.
Yeah, the boys got beat by Bo Shen in the shootout 5-4 at Franklin on Saturday. I had the good fortune of covering that. The girls are undefeated and going for another state championship at the Division II level, so good luck to Franklin.
JJ, your son's at St. Paul's, and that's a soccer power under Coach Moser. 3rd straight year in the state championship, won 1, lost 1. This is the rubber match with Jesuit.
Definitely so. Be a lot of St. Paul fans there, be a lot of Jesuit fans there as well. It should be an entertaining event.
I mentioned some of the other schools locally. St. Scholastica is a powerhouse on the North Shore. That's St. Paul's sister school, of course. Torrance, and then in addition to that, you've got other schools. Newman's got a great team. They're a number 1 seed as they go into this, and they're back there. So Sacred Heart's won 3 in a row on the girls' side under Coach Beatty. So this is a really good sport in the New Orleans area, soccer.
It seems to me that the teams that have been there before continue to go. I must say, it has a lot to do probably with coaching right there. They must have some great coaching at these schools to continue to repeat.
Well, I think you make a good point. I think the wrestling and the soccer, those sports, more than any others at the prep level, seem to be the ones that produce the same teams competing for championships every year. It is a legacy sport, or sports, if you will. There's no question that that's the case. Speaking of popular sports and prep sports, basketball, the playoffs getting underway with the girls starting tonight, the boys starting tomorrow night, and Warren Easton on the girls' side. Keep an eye on them. They're a great team in 4A, West St. John in 1A, both with great chances to win state championships from our area. On the boys' side, gets underway Tuesday, some intriguing matchups. Central at Jesuit, Barb at Brother Martin. I'll be doing that one on radio. Zachary at Higgins. Higgins is very good. Acadiana at Mandeville in the 5A bracket. 4A, McDonough 35, Old Perry Walker. That's a rematch game. 2 really good teams. East Jefferson is my dark horse. Terrific team. Shaquille Preston's outstanding. LaGrange at St. Aug. We know about St. Augustine's storied program. 3A Independence at Lusher. And the Lions really having a good season. 2A Kinder at Newman, the number 1 seeded Greenies. North Lake Christian at home against Episcopal, Pope John Paul at Riverside. A perennial power. John Curtis, a perennial power. Defending state champs at home against Booker T. Washington to Shreveport. White Castle at St. Martin's in 1A. Zach Lang, a very good player. And Country Day, a real shot at home against St. Mary's. Torrance, I know you coach basketball, you follow basketball, and you know some of these teams pretty good, huh?
Yeah, high school is going to be pretty good this year. But this year I'm going to see some of the girls. Tonight I'm going down to University to watch a couple of girls' games.
Good move. Monster Jam returns to the Mercedes-Benz Superdome this Saturday night, and perhaps no one is more excited about the event than a New Orleans native in Sean Duhan, who will drive the Zombie truck for the first time in his hometown.
Zombie has been huge ever since we debuted it a few weeks ago. Week after week, I call it the Zombie Nation because we've been invading, cities nationwide, and the following has just gotten huge, and to come here into the Superdome, being hometown, I only live 10 minutes from the Superdome, so it's like, man, this is going to be huge to come here with the truck and debut it here in the Dome for Advanced Auto Parts Monster Jam, and to be a part of a truck that the fans voted for. This is going to be awesome. I love competition. I love motorsports, any kind of motorsports. I've been racing since I was young, dirt bikes, dirt track. Now I drag race, when I'm home on the weekends, when I'm not racing monster trucks. And there's no other sport like monster trucks. It beats you around, it bangs you around, it's fast, it's fun, the fans get into it, families. There's no other sport out there that can bring in families, for the price of tickets, as cheap as they are, your whole family can come and enjoy a good show. It's nothing else like it. New Orleans is home. It's always been home, and it's always going to be home. And it's just, of course, it's going to be different. But to go out there and put on a show, it's going to be the same show. It's going to be on the edge. Whatever happens is going to happen. I'm not going to take it easy for anybody. We're just going to push this truck to the limits and see what happens and try to come out with a win.
Look forward to it. It's going to be a great event. Don't forget, tickets still on sale for Monster Jam at the Arena box office and at all Ticketmaster outlets. We hope you'll check it out. JJ, before we let you get away, you're an SEC guy. Tennessee going to rebound soon in football. And what about LSU? Do you see them being a major factor going forward?
I tell you one thing, I pray to God that Tennessee rebounds because I'm not used to being at the bottom of the SEC. I think LSU, I think they might struggle a little bit this year. I think they're probably a year away.
Okay, well, we'll see. A lot of changes there. And as for Tennessee, listen, a couple of coaches removed. I still think they made a mistake by getting rid of the guy that won a national championship for them, but that's just me. JJ, as always, a pleasure. Thank you, my friend. Great to have you with us, and keep up the great work. Thank you. And we'll take a time out here when we return in just a moment. We'll tell you more about this wonderful place we're at, Smilie's Restaurant with Augie Lopez, as Sports NOLA TV continues. Smilie's Restaurant, 5725 Jefferson Highway in Harahan. It's a Harahan tradition, a Jefferson Parish tradition. I would know that more than anybody. I've been coming here for about 30 years now. Phone number on screen at 733-3000. It's 3-in-1. Great restaurant, great cafeteria, great reception hall as well at Smilie's in Harahan, where we're at for Sports NOLA TV. Ken Trahan with you, and it's great to welcome the owner of Smilie's, Augie Lopez. Augie, great to have you with us. Thanks for having us here today.
Thank you, sir.
Well, listen, I know you very well because Glass Garden, of course, the Lago, the whole thing. I've been going to all of your restaurants for many, many years. I've been coming here forever, too. And you're here for 12 years now. Smilie's, what makes Smilie's special? What's good about Smilie's, and why did you get involved?
Well, when I sold the Glass Garden, I purchased this place because of the facilities for private parties, receptions, and, we can do 1, 2, or 3 at the same time, which I was not able to do in the Glass Garden. And also we can serve dinner, so no matter what's going on, we can accommodate a lot of people.
Right?
What would you, now, for a first-time person coming here, Mr. Lopez, what would you suggest that they get here?
Seafood platters. We have a seafood platter for 2. It's a real big seafood platter. It goes this high. You fit 3 people. Right?
Will it feed him? Because he eats like a horse now.
It'll feed 2 of him.
Torrance, look, the one thing I want to ask, we're trying to plan this retirement party for a good friend of ours. Will you give us a discount? Because this guy's right here.
I just charged you double for that, man. Shouldn't have used his name. Goodness gracious, man. Yeah. But seriously, Augie, you've got places. I mentioned 3-in-1. You get as much business for the reception hall and for anniversaries, which I've been here to a bunch of them. For weddings, I've been here to a couple of those. It's totally encompassing, and it's a menu that's very affordable for these parties.
Yes, we do a cocktail party for $24.95 per person with 3 hours unlimited food and liquors, all you want, throughout the function. And also, same thing with the receptions. We do a 3-hour reception for very low prices, if you notice the menu.
The restaurant's great, and I've eaten here a ton of times, but when you started the cafeteria concept a few years back, that's gone over very big for you.
Yes, that's what the people can come and, get in and get out in 15, 20 minutes. And that's what people look for today. They're competing with McDonald's and Burger King, I guess.
I hear you. And Brian, you look at the cafeteria menu, I mean, you're talking about $5.95 to $8, and it's a full meal, and that's pretty good, and that's hard to find when it comes to that type of food as compared to short order food.
When we were working on Saints Camp a lot, Mr. Lopez, we would come here for lunch, and you get people in and out in a hurry, and it's great food, and it's reasonably priced, and it's the reason why we always came here.
We appreciate that very much.
Yeah, and desserts too.
Yes.
I like the desserts here. Talk about those.
We have about 5 or 6 different desserts which are freshly made by somebody else because we purchase them from them.
That's an honest man.
Well, they are fresh, and
Yeah.
we don't specialize in dessert. We mostly specialize in seafood for lunch or dinner.
Yeah, Smiley'sPlantationRoom.com if you want to go online to find out about the reception room that we're in, the plantation room. Again, Smiley'sPlantationRoom.com is where you go. You mentioned the seafood platter and 1 or 2 other items that you highly recommend since you're the man.
The catfish Lafitte or the catfish Orleans. Okay. Also, we have a trout Orleans, which are our best seller. So when people come here, 70% of the dishes that are sold here are catfish Lafitte or catfish Orleans or the seafood platter.
And last but not least, you've been in this market. I mentioned, Del Lago mentioned Glass Garden and so forth. To make it in New Orleans as a restaurant, you've got to have a good product because it's a very demanding culture in the restaurant business.
Consistency is the main thing. Good service and consistency, and get good food.
Yes, and I've been here several times myself with my family and all. We enjoyed it. My cousin-in-law had a great wedding reception, which was great, and we appreciate that.
We thank you.
Well, Augie, we appreciate you. We thank you for having us here.
Thank you.
And we deeply appreciate it.
Thank you.
Love the product. We'll help you in any way to get the gospel out there because it's well deserved. Brian, as always, a pleasure. Thank you, my friend. Another good week.
Thank you, Doctor.
Torrance, thank you, buddy. God bless you. Good
Thank
to
you,
see
Doc.
Thanks to Augie as well, and thanks to our entire crew with Andrew and Adam and Lenny and everyone. For everyone, I'm Ken Trahan saying thanks for joining us and be a good sport. God bless you one and all. Counting third and heading home. So long.